possible. I hear you, and I want to, as best as I can, address your concern, your unique concern. I think everyone has a unique story when it comes to access to affordable housing anywhere in New York City. There is a level of frustration that you are conveying to all of us, which is not dissimilar from what I hear in any other part of my district or any other borough in the city of New York. In Albany, we are about to engage in one of the toughest fights that we have over rent regulation. Every 3 years, the laws that govern rent-controlled and rent-regulated apartments throughout the 5 boroughs expire. They're set to expire in June of this year. There is a serious, serious crisis when you consider, as you mentioned, how we've lost Mitchell-Lama, how there were no provisions to create a Mitchell-Lama 2.0, so to speak, how there is a tremendous amount of affordable apartments that we're losing citywide through vacancy decontrol or other loopholes that landlords and real estate exploit. And because of that, we have a major crunch of the middle class and their ability to find housing that's affordable. And it's happening everywhere and in a different way, or maybe the same way it's happening here in Roosevelt Island. It is, from our point of view, from the elected officials, our commitment is to affordability. So this is what I and Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright are fighting for in our respective legislative houses. But again, it is such a big, long-standing, deeply ingrained problem. It's not going to be solved overnight, but I believe that we have an opportunity with the leadership change that's happened in the Senate. It was the other side of the aisle, and I'm not speaking politically, I'm speaking matter-of-factly, that was against very much the rent reforms that we believe benefited tenants. Hopefully now, with a strong assembly, a new speaker in the assembly, and Speaker Carl Heastie, who's very much in favor of this, of rent reform, and with strong voices of reason in the Senate, where I sit, hopefully we can be able to change that dynamic. It will have an effect everywhere throughout the city.
I'm really sorry. My name's Rebecca Graham, and I'm counsel to Rebecca Seawright. And the Congresswoman and the Assembly member have another event that they have to go to. So we have 5 minutes left. At 8:30, we have to end this meeting. And I appreciate everyone coming here today.
Okay, I'm going to then deal with these 2 questions that I received, and I'm going to try and put them all together because it deals with that specific issue that Lorraine was discussing and the loss that affects us here on Roosevelt Island, right here, right now, in terms of buildings that are coming out from affordability and Mitchell-Lama status. One is a question in regard to the Westview Task Force. It says, our task force board has been ignored by the landlord. What pressure can you, our representatives, put on them to get them to the negotiating table? And I just wanted to expand on that and say that the Westview residents received, I think, the Black Book, am I correct? What was it? The Red Hair? Yeah. And it was done without a negotiation with with the Westview Task Force. The other question has to do with, please comment on some meter of electricity, including electric heat without upgrades on Island House. So we have here 2 issues that have to do with housing coming out from under Mitchell-Lama and being done in a fashion that's not being fair to the residents that live in Westview and Island House. And it's an immediate need and needs to be immediately addressed in order to protect these residents. So can we address that and find out what you might suggest and can do in order to help the residents that are living here and coming out from under Mitchell-Lama?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ted Houghton. I'm the Executive Deputy Commissioner of New York State Homes and Community Renewal. That's led by Commissioner Darrell Towns. And we are the state umbrella for all the state housing agencies, including the Housing Finance Agency, the State of New York Mortgage Agency, Division of Housing and Community Renewal, and a number of other entities. One of the many things we do everything we can to preserve affordability, to increase affordability, to build more units of affordable housing, and to preserve the ones that have been built, to regulate the rent laws, and to also provide rent subsidies through the Section 8 program and other things. It's very difficult in these days, as the Senator was talking about. We are facing an affordability crisis in New York City, and it's worse than it's ever been, and it's very difficult to fight those market forces. And we are spending every day trying to preserve Mitchell-Lama units, to keep them in the program, to keep them affordable, to preserve affordable units in the buildings that leave the program, to protect people with lower incomes so that they can remain in their homes. I tell you, my staff fights every day to try and preserve this, but every affordable housing program has rules, and we have to work within those rules. We do everything we can to use those rules to preserve affordability. Believe me, we are working with Borough President Gale Brewer on the Upper East Side, trying to preserve a Mitchell-Lama that everybody thought was going to go market rate, and now we've got a glimmer of hope that we will be able to preserve it and keep it in the Mitchell-Lama program. And one of the reasons for that is because Governor Cuomo has allocated an enormous amount of money to preserve Mitchell-Lamas. This year in the House New York program, which he announced 2.5 years ago, it's a 5-year program that will spend $1 billion on affordable housing. It will preserve or create 14,300 units in 5 years, and many of those are Mitchell-Lama units. In addition to that, we just passed another $25 million. Now, $25 million doesn't buy a lot of units by itself, but we are able to combine that with tax-exempt bonds, some tax credits, some rent subsidies, and we're able to really do a lot to preserve many, many units. Every one of these housing programs, every one of these buildings has different regulations governing it, has a different story behind it, and it's very difficult stuff. I hear what you're saying, the resident that was speaking before. It's very difficult to preserve these when a landlord wants to leave. And we do everything we can to entice them with various other kinds of supports to keep them in, but sometimes it's not always possible. It's especially difficult once an agreement has been made years ago and then to walk that back. All of the people, the electeds at this table, have done an awful lot to try to make these units stay affordable and to help the people that live in them. I've worked with each one of them. In fact, I was a housing advocate before I joined the agency. And my very first meeting as a housing advocate was with Representative Maloney when she was at the City Council. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in my 20s and you helped me through my case to make that. But we need to work this together. We need to hear from you what the issues are, whether it's sub-metering, whether it's keeping in the Mitchell-Lama program, whether it's preserving people's ability to stay in their housing when the buildings leave the program. And please communicate to your elected officials on this. They communicate to us every day practically, and we will work on these issues. Each one is an individual problem that has to be done. I'll talk with you later after the meeting, okay?
Hold it for 1 second, because I'm going to just ask a favor for the gentleman from the HCR. I'm sorry, I know you're
Ted.
Okay. Ted, is it possible, we have a few people in the room whose buildings are exiting, and they've got a lot of difficulties right now. Can you stay and perhaps talk to them for a couple of seconds, give them some insight as to who they should be contacting with their specific problems? Because DHCR does have some controls over the exit that takes place in your building, and I'm sure that Ted would be happy to give you the information about who you can communicate with in order to make sure that you have the oversight that you need. I want to thank all of our all of our legislators and people that represent us for their time and their energy and their effort for being here this evening and for supporting us throughout the year. And really appreciate everybody. And we will send you the questions so that we can maybe publish the answers perhaps in the warrant. But